what I'd like to show you are diminished chords. So diminished chords are the 7th chord in a key, and they're really useful chords that I've never used before yesterday because I didn't know how to really use them other than in the 7th chord of a key. Why diminished chords are so handy is because diminished chords are all inversions of each other as you move up and down the neck. So you can use them pretty much anywhere. And also, diminished chords resolve perfectly to the chord that's half a step above them or a whole step below them. So I'll show you that more when I go over my example. So diminished chords, we'll show you 2 voicings. Here's the one on the 5th string voicing, so the A string. So we have 5th fret on the A string, 6th fret on the D string, 5th fret on the G string, 6th fret on the B string. And that gives us a D diminished chord. And now if we want a 6th string voicing, or a voicing on the E string, we have the 5th fret on the E string, 6th fret on the A string, 7th fret on the D string, and 5th fret on the G string. Just like that. So those are 2 of our diminished chords, and obviously those shapes are movable. So let's look into moving them. So this voicing on the A string, we can move it up to a C, and that's still the same A chord, it's just also a C diminished chord, but they're inversions of each other. So this C diminished chord is an inversion of the A diminished chord, is an inversion of this F sharp diminished chord, all because they are a minor third apart from each other, which is just a whole step and a half, so 3 frets. C, F sharp. So they all move around, but what's even cooler is what I was saying earlier, how they resolve perfectly to the chords, major or minor, that are a half step or a whole half step above them or a whole step below them. So this A diminished chord resolves perfectly to this A major chord. And this A diminished chord resolves perfectly to this G minor chord. Or A diminished to A sharp minor. A diminished to G major. It doesn't matter if it's major or minor, it works perfectly. So what I was doing in this intro was I was showing you a chord progression with 3 different spins on it. Once it was just the chord progression with nothing over it. The other I added some fills, nothing fancy, just pretty standard fills. And then on the final one, I added diminished chords. So it felt like there was a lot of movement and a lot more tension in that one because I added diminished chords. So let's go over what I did. I started on the C minor chord, and then knowing that diminished chords resolve perfectly to chords that are a half step above them or a whole step below them, I put in from the C minor this B diminished chord, because C minor is a half step above the B diminished chord, so I was able to go to it perfectly. And then I just go to this D sharp, and then I go to this D diminished chord, to this A sharp, and then I go from this A sharp to a C diminished chord, all the way down. So I go from a C diminished chord, make my way down into an A diminished chord, finally to a G sharp major chord, and then to a G major chord. And now from this G major chord, I really show how useful diminished chords are, not necessarily from a sound standpoint, because I'm still working on trying to make them sound good, but it's cool what you can do with them in the context of like a chord run. So I go from this G chord, to this G sharp diminished chord, this A sharp chord, to this B diminished chord, to the C minor. So that's so you can use it to walk up or walk down from anywhere on the fretboard or get to any other chord. And you can also use it in single note lines if you were like just making something like a transition to a different chord. That's a perfect way to do it. So it's just a cool movable shape that you can have a lot of fun experimenting with and getting it to resolve to different chord shapes. I hope you have fun with it. I hope you try it out too. It's actually a lot of fun. Good luck.